Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you, Gordy, for having me. As always, it's nice to get the good message out there about what we're doing.
And you have a good message. I posted up on our website as well pictures of the Faribault Education Center. I had a nice tour there when I was over taking pictures of the Faribault Falcons practicing. They had something that you played football.
I did. Yep, I played of course high school and I played college
Yeah, you
football.
played college football. Luther, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep, Luther
Luther
College.
College.
Yep, Norse.
You're a Norse.
Yep, I was a Norse.
Anyway, they had something that we never had when I was a kid on the field. They had a speaker cranking tunes.
Oh, they did at the practice field.
Yeah,
I guess the last time I was there, I didn't see that, so
which
they
I
must
thought
be
was
getting the kids fired up.
very interesting. You know,
Hmm.
some guy had their iPod or something on top of the speaker cranking the tunes.
Yep, they do. They have those Bluetooth devices, and they can go just about anywhere and play it with those portable speakers, and they're pretty good.
Yeah, and so it was jamming the music. That's something we didn't have. I don't know if you had that in your practices.
Just when we drove our cars, I think, up to the practices or the games, but we never had it during practice.
But that Faribault Education Center certainly looks gorgeous. I love that facility.
It really is, and we're filling it up already. Yeska Lewis is our adult basic education coordinator there, and she kind of runs that building. And we also have our adults with disabilities down there, and we will eventually host some of the high school classes in there.
In fact, they've got a kitchen. You know, people think kitchen, what do you need a kitchen for? But some people come to this country that have never, ever been in a kitchen,
It
like
is.
the kitchens we have here in America.
Yeah, it's kind of twofold. It's for our newcomers that come to our country, then also for our adults with disabilities when we transition them into the real world. We want to make sure that they have that training too.
So, very nice kitchen. I'd love to have it in my house.
It is. We're going to be able to rent that out quite a bit too, I'm sure. So folks will take advantage of that once we make all these different spaces public.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They
So.
could have a nice little meeting in there, serve treats.
Yep. Yeah. We've already had some requests, so we're very happy with the way it has turned out, and the people who have been in there have been pretty impressed. So.
Well, it's a classroom, so you obviously have the ability to bring down a screen and show a
Mhm.
PowerPoint presentation. And, you know, I could see a little group renting that facility easily.
You bet. And then even we're eventually I can see our FACS, our family and consumer science teachers going in there and utilizing that and helping us out with some of the adult basic ed things.
So it's just beautiful. Well, can people tour this
Oh,
facility?
you
Not
bet.
just, I mean, I
Mhm.
just happened to walk in and, you know,
Yeah.
said who I was and said I wanted to take a few pictures, and so
Mhm.
they took me around.
Yeah, you can come down anytime. Just ask for Jessica or Becky. They'd be more than happy to show you around. We are going to have an open house. We have an open house scheduled at the beginning of October. Once we get that scheduled, I'll let you know exactly what those dates are.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get the chamber down there and hopefully the Faribault Daily News. And if KDHL wants to come, that would be great.
Well, of course.
It'll also coincide with our new district office space. We have a new district office and conference center up by the middle school, and that project turned out beautifully. We are very happy. We outgrew the old place that we were at north of town, and it's a very functional, very high quality space that we are able to do a lot of good things with.
Well, I know you were renting space for the adult learning and ESL too, right?
Yeah, both of them we were renting space, and the rent is actually a direct tax impact. We charge rent and we collect that from the taxpayers. It's a different way of collecting public money. Of course, all of our funds are public money, but in this particular case, we decided that we would look at that funding, and rather than having it a direct tax, because we had a levy pass a couple of years ago, we were able to free up some money and take that money out of our operating capital and save taxpayers actually a pretty good chunk of money. So over 18 years when we projected it out, because that was one of the goals, is that the board would only approve this if, number one, we would decrease taxes, which we did, not by a significant amount, but we decreased taxes a little bit. And also we had to save money. We had to show taxpayers that we're going to save money, and after 18 years, the evidence is that we're going to save taxpayers about $2 million.
$2 million, and then the payback is pretty soon too, right?
Yeah, well, the payback is 10 years after we go through the process, but after that, we're going to start saving taxpayers. We don't get any revenue from the school. The school doesn't collect that. That all goes back to taxpayers.
All right, so that's the good news there. We're going to take a little break, get your opening market report, a service of your KDHL Agri Boosters, and then come back and visit with the superintendent of the Faribault Public Schools, Todd Sesker. We appreciate his stopping by today. He's in studio today here on the KDHL studios. Of course, you can watch this up on YouTube, our YouTube channel. Head to our KDHLradio.com website, and of course, you can go up there and go on the YouTube and archived a lot of AM Minnesota programs And you can pick the one that you like best, or you can pick them all and watch them at your leisure. Technology is an amazing thing, and you see that in the schools too, Todd.
Oh yeah, just about everything you see anymore is surrounded by technology. So.
Yeah, no question about it, including that education center, as I noted, with the high-tech kitchen.
Yeah, you bet. And then even our district office and conference center, we've really decked it out. We can also have all of our board meetings there now. We don't have to go to City Hall. We have our school board meetings all televised. They're all live streamed, and they're all live on FCTV during the board meeting nights, and so that's something new too.
But are they archived so you can watch it later if you can't take it in at the time that you are meeting?
You bet. We have them all archived on our website, and you can find them there, and it's very nice to go back and review some of those.
And speaking of that, your new AD, well, relatively new, Danny Duchesne, was telling me that was his #1 project when he first came here, was to get you a new website.
Yeah, Danny's done a very nice job. We hired him for a reason, and he's done a great job, and he's followed through just about on everything and all of our expectations. So
Well,
he's
he
doing great.
comes from the techie generation, I guess.
He does, and he also comes from that coaching area. He did a lot of pieces over the athletic department in the places that he was previously, so he carries that experience as well, and a lot of good PR experience, and he does a great job interacting with people. And it's so important for the administration to be able to talk to parents and talk to businesses and folks, and he does a good job of that. We're very happy to have Danny with us.
Yeah, tonight, Faribault Falcon football will be on Power 96 radio. John Anderson will be in Rochester as the Mayo Spartans play host to the Falcons. Of course, Mayo's a 5A school, Faribault a 4A school, and numbers are huge in football. You know that, and that's how they determine those classes, by your numbers.
It is by the numbers, and changes every couple of years, and so we are in the 4A bracket this year. But we think we're going to be pretty competitive, not just in football, but all of our sports. So
Yeah,
we're very happy.
Saw your volleyball team in their opener with New Prague. They had a few hiccups, and they'll get those remedied, I'm sure.
Yep, they will. We got a good cross-country team. We're pulling for our tennis teams and everybody else that's out there. Volleyball, of course, you mentioned.
And girls swimming and diving.
Yep, girls swimming and diving. So they already won their first meet. So it should be a good year for Faribault.
Now, fall is a very busy time. Winter, of course, is a bit, well, what am I saying? All seasons are busy. Spring, not quite as much so, I guess.
They are, but the busiest time is going to be next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is our opening day for students, and we're looking forward to having all of our kids come. Our kindergartners have kind of like an open house. They're more of a conference than school, so the parents and the kindergartners get to go meet their teachers, but everybody else is coming on Tuesday, so we're really looking forward to that.
Now, you look excited when you say that, actually. I thought maybe you didn't want the summer to be over yet.
No, I'm kind of like those parents that have 3 or 4 kids in their house and they're ready for school to start. I'm ready for those kids to come, so we're ready to have them.
Yeah. Any new things at the buildings other than the 2 construction projects we talked about?
Yeah, most of the buildings and grounds, it's kind of behind the scenes. We've made some improvements. We've covered a lot of the different areas of the parks that we have, the ballparks. We're taking some fences down. We have done a good job of repairing some of the grounds. If you drive by our grounds, you'll see a nice improvement for our aesthetics. All of our staff has done very, very well. And if you have a second, I have a hero story for you too, Gordy, of one of our staff members. We had our workshop last Monday. We had everybody in there, and we talked about all the heroes that we have that are teachers and paras and cooks and everybody else. But we had one individual, Jay Gustafson, who was actually taking a walk one morning, and he was stopped by a mom who came out and said, "Hey, I need your help. I can't find my 2-year-old daughter." So rewinding ahead, my finance director, Colleen Murdesdorf, came in to me, and she's never late. She happened to be late this morning. She said, "Todd, I'm very sorry I'm late, but I had a person come stop my car in the middle of the street just down the road, and they said, call 911, call 911. And so what I found out later is that Jay, who was looking for this 2-year-old little girl from this mom who had asked him to, was walking across, and he saw a koi pond, a little pond in the backyard, and he saw a little girl face down.
Oh, no.
And so he grabbed the little girl quickly, started CPR, and by the time the ambulance had come, after Colleen had called 911, he had resuscitated her. And so the last I heard, and I read this in the Faribault Daily News, is that the little girl was breathing. I don't know who the little girl is, and I don't know who the parents are, but I do know Jay. And boy, that was a great story, and Jay's a hero on our part. So we're really happy to have him. He's one of our staff members. He's our interpreter, and he does a great job for us. And just another hero story from one of our staff.
Yeah,
Pretty
way
cool.
way to go, Jay.
Yeah, so
And
great story.
All kids in the district learn CPR, right?
Well, it doesn't, not till later. We offer a CPR class in our health curriculum, so we'd like to probably as many staff members as we possibly can get in to learn CPR too, but it's extremely important that they do that. But it just gives you an example of what I deal with every day. I've got great staff. They're fun to be around, and they really care about kids.
And that's what you want.
That's what we want.
They're there for the right reason.
They are. So you asked me about the buildings and everything else, and what really matters is what's inside those buildings and how those people react. We've got great teachers and things like that.
What I was thinking, I've been talking to other administrators around there, and the law was passed about bathrooms, and so they were trying to find spaces for.
Yep.
You have to have spaces.
Yep, for the transgender folks.
Right.
And we want to make sure that we're trying to be in compliance with them. Most of the public places, if you go to the hospitals, are already building those. Most of the schools are. Our two new buildings have them. So we call them unity bathrooms. They're not really as controversial as they may have been in the past, but right now we just put them in there and they work out pretty well. Anybody can use them. And
so all the buildings have those?
Only the two new buildings. The other buildings we have different areas, like in the nurse's office. If we need to direct students to go there, if they're having an issue with that, then we direct them to go there.
Just the few administrators I visited with said it's, they're already cramped for space, so that's why it was an issue for them.
It is, and this kind of leads me into the next discussion too. We're having this ad hoc facility group. I talked a little bit about that last time.
Yeah.
We're reviewing all of our different facilities, and that's certainly on our radar. Can we create more bathrooms or take a current area and make it into a bathroom that would help us with that? Not only that, you never have enough bathrooms in the schools. It's kind of crazy, but we don't. So this ad hoc facility group, who just met again, we saw some video from Jefferson and Roosevelt and McKinley. Our administrators there worked with some staff, and they created this really cool video that we showed this ad hoc facility committee. And the only purpose for the committee is to check to see whether or not it's going to be worth the school board hiring an architect to really start to dive into these different issues to see whether or not building is a possibility, and a bond issue possibly in the fall of 2017 is something that we want to consider. And the ad hoc facility group, which I think the 25 or 30 folks that are on that committee, is a really pretty good cross-section of our community. We have a couple of city council members on there, and Jana Viscomi and John Rowan, they've done a great job participating, and we have a couple board reps. We have all kinds of community reps that are on there, and they voted pretty much unanimously to do something. So we're moving towards that. Eventually the board will make that final decision, the school board, and but they want as much input as possible to see whether or not something is not only needed, but something that will pass with the voters in the fall of 2017.
So this architect is being given ideas of what you'd like to see, or is this architect supposed to just come up with some multiple ideas that you guys will vote on?
Yeah, pretty much all the above. And the idea is that if the board decides that they want to hire an architect based on all this feedback from the community, then we would give that architect the ideas that we've come up with. We would probably, it's more of a dream list right away, and then the board would set the parameters for how much money they think the community can pass. And then based on those parameters, the architect would help us narrow the focus down to something that's realistic. And then we would go out to the voters, if the board approves it, to vote on these different facilities that need to be upgraded. We've talked about a field house. We've talked about, well, we haven't yet. We're going to talk about that in October. But internally, we've talked about a field house. We've talked about a gymnastics center. We've talked about things that not only can help the school, but also the community of our wonderful community to draw folks in, and so that they can take a look at it and say, hey, that's pretty cool in Faribault.
Of course, gymnastics did recently move.
They did, and we're going to have a lot of different things that are going to be on this list that are not going to make the final cut. We want to discuss everything that's on there. We've talked about ballparks, helping out. Maybe if we could get a state baseball tournament down here, it'd be cool to redo Belfield and some of those other areas to help.
Yep, they are talking about that. Paul Panofsky was in here earlier this week and talked about that.
Yeah, so that could be part of our list. So we're talking about everything that we have as a school district that can help this community out.
I've always thought it would be awesome to have your softball team right on the high school campus. They have that little field behind the high school, you know, and it would be a great setting. Wouldn't even have to put in bleachers because you can sit up on the hill and you could watch the game.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of schools have their facilities right at their high school, and there is an advantage to having that. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of land back there, so we're a little bit landlocked in that spot, but it would be terrific.
It's like you could put an outfield fence out there, and much like, I don't know if you've been to Mankato East, they have a beautiful little park for their fast pitch team.
Right. It'd be nice to have a stadium for the softball team, wouldn't it?
They were kind of landlocked too. I mean, Alexander Park's great, don't get me wrong, but it would just be so convenient for your, you know, for your kids.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more. So those are the things we're looking at, not just the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools, our alternative learning center, all those different areas, but we also want to look at something that the community would like to have that we could help out with too.
So you mentioned earlier that some of these areas are going to be open to the public, like the Faribault Education Center kitchen classroom, for lack of a better term. That's what I termed it, on the kitchen classroom. Open to the public. How would people go about renting that?
Yeah, they call Becky Lippert she's at the Adult Basic Ed Center. Most people know Becky. If you don't know Becky, you can always call our district office, and Kathy at 333-6010 can direct you to Becky. We're connected there directly. We're also going to be, although our spaces are starting to fill up right now, and we haven't even opened school yet, we have plenty of space at the district office. We have a 75-person conference center now where the board's going to meet. We can divide that into 2 separate rooms. We'll probably use those as classrooms eventually for the middle schoolers. We have 2 conference rooms. We have a Garfield conference room. Remember Garfield Elementary School, so that's the South Conference Room. And we have a Washington conference room that can hold probably about 15 to 18 people. Again, if people want to utilize that, call Becky Lippert, and she can assign those for you, and we'd be more than happy to rent those for you.
So is the kitchen classroom called the McKinley room now too?
You know, I don't know yet what that one's, we haven't put a name on that one. Although the boardroom, you know what the school boardroom is called? That's the Falcon Room. And we have the North Falcon Room and the South Falcon Room.
That makes perfect sense. Again, Todd Sesker is with us. He's the superintendent of the Faribault Public Schools. We're talking about school opening on Tuesday. Is there a message you want to get out to parents in terms of, you know, having, of course, the right supplies for their kids? I'm sure there's lists available online.
Yeah, you bet. That is one thing. We want to make sure that the kids are ready when they come to school. But I also want to tell parents to be very careful. We are going to have a lot of kids on Tuesday, so when you're driving to school, make sure you're very careful, you're aware. If your kids are driving to school, you're 16 or 17 or 18-year-old, make sure that you remind them to be careful, slow down. There are a lot of little kids out there that are going to be coming to school next Tuesday.
Yeah, and some of them are pretty excited because it's their first day of school, and they're little and they haven't been to school a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we want everybody to be safe. We want to have a great start to the school year, which I'm sure we will. Like I said, our staff is ready. They're great. They've been working really hard. Our buildings are in terrific shape. Very proud of what we're doing in our start to the school year.
You know I'm ancient. When I went to school, not a lot of kids drove to school. I mean, a lot of farm kids did, but not a lot of kids drove to school. That's, I would assume, different nowadays.
Oh yeah, our parking lot, if you look in the front of the high school, is pretty full. And so most kids do drive. They do have to pay a parking fee, and which is good because we use that fee to help maintain our parking lot. And this year we did a lot of different things with our, not just at the high school, but all over. That fee gets used up pretty quickly. So it's a good cause. I know that sometimes it's a pain to pay that fee, but it also helps us because when we get folks that we have registered, and our security person can make sure that the right vehicles are in the parking lot, and it makes our school safe.
Yeah. Speaking of school safety, there's some new issues involved there too, right, in terms of going to the buildings? I mean, I know you still have to report to the office, but there's a little more security in place.
Yeah, we do. Again, that's another part of that ad hoc facility committee. What can we do to make our buildings even more safe without ruining the education atmosphere? We want it to still be warm. We want it to be a place where parents want to come and bring their kids, but at the same time we want to make it safe. Our district office is extremely safe. We put in all the security systems. We're very happy the way that turned out. Same thing at the FEC. But for instance, our high school, we'd like to do something a little bit different. We have the vestibule, which gets locked, and there's a camera that's located at the office where people can buzz in and buzz out. But if somebody gets in, they can still go wherever they want in the high school. In the middle school, we fixed our safety where the folks now have to come through the office and they can't get out of the office until the secretaries allow them to go into the main areas. So we try to keep it as secure as possible. We have a little ways to go with it, but it is a little bit more secure than it was in the past, and we keep on working on those safety pieces.
It's really sad that we have to do that because, there's nothing like that when I was a kid. You never even thought about some stranger walking in your school, and, or maybe not a stranger either, as far as that goes.
Right, exactly. It could be somebody that has, it could be a disgruntled worker or whatever, but just to remind parents that schools are very, very safe. Andy Bolin was there, our Chief Bolin was talking to our staff, and we did all of our trainings, which includes our intruder alert training, and Andy assured everybody that schools are still extremely safe.
School buses too, man. The school bus safety record is incredible when you think of all the miles they drive.
They do, and the Reagans down had our local transportation company in Faribault, and the drivers down there do an outstanding job of making sure those kids are safe. They've really done a great job since I've been here.
Got to be a lot of fun to work with.
They are. Yep. Garrett does a great job down there with his staff, and we always have been successful. I don't have a lot of headaches when it comes to transportation, and that's not necessarily normal for superintendents. Garrett takes care of a lot of those different issues. The drivers take care of the discipline on the bus. They really do a good job managing those kids.
I assume you've examined, because there are districts that own their own buses. I'm sure that's been examined in the past, and the decision was made not to go that route.
Yeah, well, we've contracted with Faribault Transportation for quite a number of years, and each year they have an inspection, and our buses, through Garrett's leadership, really do pass with flying colors. They do a great job maintaining the buses, making sure they're safe. It is the safest way to transport your kids to school. It is safer than a car, and but we are very proud of how Faribault Transportation has worked with us, and we're very proud of the drivers that drive for Garrett, and they're just as important piece of our education as our teachers are, and we really respect them.
I mean, you save money obviously from getting rid of the leases and having your own buildings. So could there be a savings if you had your own bus service? Yeah,
there is a savings. There's a savings, and because you do have your own, you don't have to pay that administrative cost, obviously. But the important thing is, there's a cost analysis. What do you give up as a result of owning your own buses? Right now, the relationship and the safety record is impeccable with our current Faribault Transportation, and that's tough to give up when you start looking at other avenues for that. So we have no intention of looking at buying our own buses. It'll probably stay with Faribault Transportation.
Yeah, you have enough headaches.
We do. We do have enough headaches, and they have done nothing but good for us.
Buildings, I've always been, we've talked about this before, the roofs on all these schools are flat, and so they have to have, almost every year you have to do some maintenance on the roofs, right?
We
of
do.
The school facilities?
Yeah, and actually, when we passed that $15 million bond a few years ago, that was before I got here, the roofs of all the schools were actually complete, and they have a 30 or 35-year warranty now. Some of the companies are warranting those pieces, and so they inspect them every year, and if there's a flaw, there's some depreciation costs involved, but they really maintain them pretty well. So the roofs we have on are quite good. They do have a pitch on them. It's not flat anymore like the olden days. We do put a pitch, and they may drain in a central drain in the school. We measure our roofs by an R value, and the norm used to be R value of 22, and right now our R values are close to 27, 28, which means a better pitch and better insulation.
Two things, Todd, and I don't know, there might be some things you want to get the word out on a little bit more, but one other thing, I was thinking of this the other day. We could get some solar panels on each of those buildings, and that would be a cost savings.
Yep, upfront investment, and we are again looking at that. We have a facility committee. We've also talked about looking into, although we're not ready to commit to the solar farms, you can tap into a solar farm which is part of Excel's energy grid, and you can actually save some money theoretically with that. The only difficulty with the solar piece right now is that there's too long of a commitment. It's almost a 20 to 25 year commitment.
It is 25 years.
Yeah, 25 years. So that's the only hard thing that we haven't quite we're not comfortable with going that route quite yet.
Wind energy?
Wind energy, my dad, I think I told you this before, when he was a superintendent down in Forest City, Iowa, he built the first windmill for their school, and right now it pays all their electricity, and they're able to contract that out. But that's always a good investment. I can't, it's really surprising to me, and I'll have to look into this actually, Gordy. More schools haven't actually gone on board with this because of all the
Colleges have. Carleton and St.
Yeah.
Olaf both have wind energy.
Yeah, but not many public schools. The subsidies that are given to farmers and others really do amount to a lot. I don't know if they've ever even thought about doing that with public schools, but I'll have to look into that.
It makes perfect sense to me.
It does.
Anytime you could save some money, and of course, that's what we're all
Yep.
kind of hoping we can do.
Right.
Save a little money, have a little more in our pockets,
Right.
so we can spend it in our communities.
That's I'm not going to argue with that,
Yeah,
Gordy.
that's
good.
the bottom line.
Yep.
Only have a couple minutes left. There are a couple messages you wanted to get out.
Yeah, I just want to again support our schools. We are doing a great job with our kids. We've got great staff. We've got a group of new 35, 40 teachers that we've hired again this year, and they are really there for kids. Tuesday is our first day of school. Like I said before, we've got athletics and extracurriculars going full blast, and I just want people to know that we appreciate what the community does for us, and we support and the support that the community's shown our school, and we support the community as well. It's great to be a Valken. I always have to put that in there.
Yes, you said 35, 40 new teachers. How many total teachers do you have?
We have about 300 we have 300 staff.
So over
Yep.
10%,
Yep.
10% or roughly a little over.
Yeah, and it's down a little bit. As you know, the levy passed a few years ago, so we've been gradually adding teachers back. But most of these teachers were replacing folks that had retired or had moved on.
Do we know how many students yet?
We have last year's count was about 3,900 students.
The
So,
official count day is not the first day, right?
October 1st is usually when we wait.
Which I always found interesting.
Yeah, as you know, funding is all about the student count. So the state wants to be sure that they have all their ducks in a row.
So they've determined somehow, some way, some shape, some form, that October 1st is the epitome of student attendance.
It is, yeah, and it's not attendance, it's called membership. We don't actually base our finances on attendance. A kid could miss 10 days and we'll get the same amount of money for that student. As long as they're a member for our school from the first day to the last day, we'll get 100% of the funding for that student.
Okay, the census then of,
Yes,
of the student.
that's correct.
Hey, thanks, Todd. I certainly appreciate you coming in, and we look forward to visiting with you more during the school year.
And again, thanks, Gordy, for letting me get the good word out about Faribault
Oh,
Falcons.
you bet. Todd Sesker.